Who has truly benefited the most from diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI incentives? Stay with me until the end of the video because I promise you the answer may surprise you. But before we dive in, let's do a quick test. This is an easy one, no trick questions. And I promise you, if you're honest about what you see, you'll pass. Think of 3 Fortune 500 companies, any 3 that come to mind. Now, go to their website. Find the executive leadership page, ELT page. Look at the photos. Now, ask yourself, what is the obvious similarity? Did you notice? You passed the test. Now, let's talk about why this matters and why the conversation around diversity, equity, and inclusion has been twisted into something that it was never meant to be. Serving as co-chair for my company's DE&I program, I had the unique privilege of engaging in conversations all across the country. Conversations with people from different races, genders, abilities, and backgrounds. One thing became clear. When diversity, equity, and inclusion are mentioned today, the conversation is often framed as though it is only for minorities, as if Black and brown professionals are somehow taking over or receiving special treatment, but history tells us otherwise. Before being selected as co-chair of our DE&I program, I served as the National Director of Military and Uniform Services for my company. When the CEO personally asked me to serve in this role, I was sent to Cornell University, one of the most prestigious institutions in the country, and one of the most esteemed worldwide, to receive my formal DE&I leadership training. Cornell took this training very seriously. Every student was expected to meet all requirements and represent the institution's program with the highest standard of excellence. No stone was left unturned in implementing best practices for valuing differences, ensuring fair opportunities, and fostering an environment where everyone felt respected and fully included. At that time, when you consider the outpatient facilities, along with our hospitals, my company had 53 locations across the United States. During my career, I have personally visited 47 of the 50 states, speaking to people in the North, the South, the East, and the West, in the inner cities and rural communities. I saw firsthand how employees across all departments happily work to implement DE&I principles. Were there challenges? Absolutely. But those challenges were not caused by DE&I itself. They were due to a lack of leadership buy-in at certain facilities. Just 90 days or so ago, I was riding with a white colleague when the subject of DE&I came up. He began to express his frustrations, stating, "As a white man, I can't win. And now I feel like I'm being discriminated against." I turned to him and I asked the question, why now? Why is it that for decades, when Blacks and people of color were talking about unfair treatment, you remained silent and did not say anything, but now, the moment you feel that others are getting opportunities, you assume they came at your expense, as if something is being taken away from you. I reminded him he was a national director, just like me. He had not been pushed out. He had not lost his position, but yet the perception of equality made him uncomfortable. And that's the problem. For years, when Black professionals spoke about discrimination, no one wanted to listen. But now that white Americans feel uncomfortable, DE&I programs are being dismantled all across the country. That is not by accident, and that is exactly why these conversations matter. So, who has benefited the most from diversity, equity, and inclusion? Well, research has shown that the primary benefactor of diversity, equity, and inclusion policies have been white women. That's right. not Black Americans, not Hispanic Americans, not Indigenous communities, white women. Affirmative action and workplace diversity initiatives has opened doors for women in ways that simply did not exist before. And yet, these same programs are now being attacked and dismantled, using Black professionals as scapegoats. Let's be clear. DE&I hires are just as qualified as anyone else. Every person, regardless of how they enter the role, must meet the same hiring requirements, undergo the same training, and pass the same performance evaluations. Yet the argument that DE&I is about lowering the bar continues, despite the decades of data showing the real imbalance in corporate America. White Americans are overrepresented in leadership compared to their share of the workforce. Black Americans are severely underrepresented in executive roles, and they are 7 times less likely to hold these positions. Women, especially Black women and Hispanic women, are paid less, and they hold fewer top-tier positions. The Hispanic and Latino workers are the largest growing workforce group, but they are still largely absent from leadership. These are facts, not opinions. They are measurable, documented realities. Let's take a trip back to the Reconstruction era. After the Civil War, many poor white Southerners feared economic competition from formerly enslaved Black Americans. These newly freed men and women had been skilled laborers for generations, while many poor white Southerners had neither education nor training. Sound familiar? The same fear-based rhetoric we hear today about immigrants, about affirmative action, about DE&I has been weaponized for centuries. It's done to divide working class Americans against one another. The truth, DE&I isn't about giving anyone an unfair advantage. It is about leveling a historically unleveled playing field. Let's be honest here. We have seen this throughout our history, and we're seeing it in the present. One of the reasons for the elimination of diversity, equity, and inclusion is to eliminate the competition. Take, for example, the replacements of the U.S. Secretary of Defense and the Chairman of Joint Chief of Staff positions. Their qualifications pale in comparison to General Lloyd Austin and General Charles Q. Brown's. Under any other circumstance, neither of those replacements would even qualify for those positions. General Austin and General Brown are both highly distinguished service members with over 40 years of active military service. The replacement for the Secretary of Defense never served on active duty, only served in the National Guard, and has only reached the rank of major. When it comes to the Chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, they called him out of retirement and gave him, and I repeat, gave, not earned, him a star because the position requires a 4-star general. A book that I would recommend for this video is called Dear White America, Letter to the New Minority by Tim Wise. If this truth surprised you, imagine what your children and grandchildren aren't learning in school. The facts are being erased, and the curriculum is being rewritten. And the next generation is growing up without a full understanding of history, leaving them vulnerable. And that is why we created the Unlocking Black History Workbook. It is a printable keepsake and a guide to ensure that these truths never disappear. The private Facebook group is where we go deeper, answer questions, and share resources that help you to teach the next generation. So click the links in the description and pinned comments, because if we don't teach them, no one will. And as always, do your own research. Ask who's telling the story. From what vantage point is the story being told? Answer every question but then question every answer. I'll see you at the next video.